Everybody, and welcome to the redo version of tonight's studentloanjustice.org live stream. I'm doing this for a second time. I wanted to be sure I had my facts straight about the testimony we saw today that's in the Senate banking hearing that Elizabeth Warren was running. I was alerted that bankruptcy was actually mentioned in these hearings one time, and I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, let me just say, well, first of all, good news, bad news. Good news, we are looking for people in Ohio and Georgia who are willing to be interviewed about their student loans. Like right now, like tomorrow, maybe even, this week for sure. If you live in Ohio or you live in Georgia, particularly northern Ohio or eastern Georgia or even western South Carolina, if you live near Augusta, Georgia, either of those places, send me an email, justice@studentloanjustice.org. Tell me where you live and write a few sentences, a paragraph or so about your situation so I can forward it along. These are very important states. This is very important media, guys. I'm telling you, this is where the battle is won. So that's great. We also got a really good mention for the petition on CNBC today. It was literally the last line of the article, which is a little off-putting. It was regarding student loan cancellation. Don't forget, guys, it was our petition that started this whole national dialogue back in March about canceling student loans by executive order. It wasn't until like September that Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer started talking about it. So I would hope that we would get maybe a little more credit than we are getting, but whatever. We're used to getting dissed. It doesn't really matter that much. But I was glad to see it, our little tiny mention at CNBC. Tell everybody you know, by the way, about our petition and about our group. It all started here. This is where the action is. This is the front line of the battle for student loan justice. 45 million people should be on our side, and they would be if they knew that we were even in existence. You need to find them and tell them. If you know 10 people with student loans, 8 of them are freaking out. 8 of them were never going to be able to repay their loans even before the pandemic. Okay, so that's good news. Bad news. Today, Elizabeth Warren held a Senate committee for the Senate Banking Committee held a hearing about student loans. The point of the hearing was student loan cancellation. We were hoping to hear very good things from Elizabeth Warren. Unfortunately, guys, I hate to disappoint you, but this hearing was kind of a disaster, I would say. So let me back up a minute. We've been doing this for many years, and we've been tricked by a bait and switch where the bait, well, here's what happens. Here's what happened in the past. Our opposition would love to see a lame, partial, nonsensical, meaningless loan cancellation, whether it's through Congress or by executive order. They would love to see that instead of having bankruptcy protections returned to the loans. The core of this problem is bankruptcy. Whether you like it or hate it, most people hate it, whether you would ever or never file, the absence of bankruptcy protections lies at the core of this problem. Our opposition would love to keep this lending system going. And the way they want to do that right now is to do some politically fancy-sounding loan cancellation that sounds good, but actually does nothing. As long as they can keep bankruptcy protections away from the loans, they can continue to violate us, the people, and steal from us under the guise of federal law. Founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution for a very good reason. This is exactly what they wanted to avoid. So guys, we've seen all the tricks, all the traps, and this is looking like one of them. So in today's hearing, I was hoping that somebody like Elizabeth Warren and some of the other so-called good guys on the panel would underscore the need to return bankruptcy protections to student loans. We didn't get that. Hey, Tiffany, Klein, how are you? Okay, I will look at that. Thank you. I'm going to try and keep this short, guys. We don't hate Elizabeth Warren. In fact, we have a long history with Elizabeth Warren. Our very first splash in the national spotlight was also our second splash in the national spotlight was Elizabeth Warren's first splash in the national spotlight in a piece, a top story actually, on 60 Minutes in May 2006. Elizabeth Warren should be the good guy. She taught bankruptcy law at Harvard University for many years. She wrote many great scholarly papers. She nailed that 60 Minutes interview many, many years ago. So I was hoping very much that we would hear her talk at length about bankruptcy today. Not only did I not see her mention bankruptcy even once, I did not see any of the expert witnesses that I assume Elizabeth Warren brought, at least half of them on board to the hearing. I didn't see any of them mention bankruptcy. The only person in this hearing who mentioned bankruptcy was Jack Raimondi, who is the president of Navient. He's not a good guy. Trust me on that. And what he did was rehashed his 10-year-old proposal that, sure, yeah, we should allow bankruptcy for student loans, provided that the students pay on the loans for 7 or 8 or 10 years or who knows how long, for multi-years. That's nonsense. That's ridiculous. That's like saying, yeah, you're drowning? Sure, I'll give you a life jacket. In fact, there's a life jacket on that island over there. Just swim to that island and you can go get your life jacket. That's how stupid Raimondi's proposal is. Now, whatever he said in the hearing, I didn't see it. I looked twice, I didn't see it. But what he said in his written testimony was just an old Sally Mae parlor trick. Nonsense. So we heard nothing about bankruptcy. We did see in written testimony Raimondi calling for the cancellation of 10-year-old or older defaulted federal loans. And coming from a banker with absolutely no skin in that game, it was nice to hear. But, again, coming from a banker, a Sally Mae Navient guy, very limited value. The experts were terrible. They were swamp creatures. Adam Looney has written for loan cancellation by Congress, which is ridiculous, and against loan cancellation by executive order. The key difference there is that nobody in Washington, D.C. gets paid when the loans are canceled by executive order. That's the way it has to happen, because Congress will never meaningfully cancel loans. So that guy was a joke. Beth Akers is a known bad guy. If you Google her name on our group, you will see bad guy equals Beth Akers. In fact, Google bad guy on our group, and you will see probably 15 or 20 people, at least 2 of whom were mentioned, were expert witnesses in today's hearing. It was a disaster. So, as I said, the defenders of this lending system, they would love to do a bait and switch where they dangle loan cancellation out there. But what we end up getting is nonsense where almost nobody gets their loans canceled and bankruptcy remains gone from the loans. It's my biggest fear. And if I had to run a congressional hearing designed towards that end, the hearing I saw today is the hearing that I would do. So I've got to say it, guys. We're a nonpartisan group. And believe me, we actually endorsed Elizabeth Warren in this presidential campaign. In fact, we convinced Elizabeth Warren to bring bankruptcy into her presidential agenda. We convinced Elizabeth Warren to pledge that on day one as president, she would do an executive order on day one returning bankruptcy to federal student loans. Elizabeth Warren is a friend and ally of ours. We talk to her staff on a weekly, maybe bi-monthly basis. So the lines of communication are open. And believe you me, we contacted her staff. Our members contacted her staff multiple times before this hearing, and we gave them very clear suggested points that they need to make. They didn't make any of them. Bankruptcy never came up, and that is a key tell, guys. I know you don't want to file bankruptcy. It makes your head hurt to even think about it. We've been doing this for 16 years, and if they don't talk about bankruptcy, it is a key tell that the hustle is on. So I'm really sorry to have to report that. And, I have continued hope in Elizabeth Warren. Tiffany Klein says, I have faith in EW. We are a nonpartisan group. We tell the truth all the time. And it's a pretty rare day when we have anything good to say about an elected official. We have said very good things about Elizabeth Warren in the past, maybe some not so good things as well. But we tell the truth, and we don't care who we offend or anything like that. All we care about is the truth. And the truth is, today's hearing was a disaster. The only good things I can say about today's hearing, They did light into Ramondi about how he's and Fed Loan Servicing, I should say, FIA, about how they're running the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So maybe it was important. Senator from New Jersey, Menendez, made a good point that I've been making for years now, that all of the forgiveness programs are just cruel jokes. But, those points have been made. It didn't add anything new to the conversation. There was an expert, I can't remember her name, that talked about the disparate treatment or the disparate negative consequences that these loans are having on people of color. And that was true and important. And so there was that. But, this lending system is hurting people of all colors, creeds, political persuasions. You name the demographic, and unless they're a millionaire or maybe a 10 millionaire or more, they're being hurt by these loans. Even millionaires who have to who write checks for their kids' tuition is being hurt by this federal student loan system. So, whatever. That was what it was. Good to see it. But guys, I'm telling you, on the big stuff, this looks like my worst suspicions are being quickly confirmed. So guys, again, I'm laughing because I'm not that worried about it. No matter what Washington does or says, no matter what the Washington swamp does or says, they cannot alter the reality that this is a catastrophically failed lending system. Almost nobody is paying right now. Very few people, maybe no people, will pay whenever this repayment suspension ends, supposedly in October. This lending system is a dead man walking, and there's nothing you can do to prevent it from vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy. So there's that. That's the truth. And, my only hope is that, and make no mistake, the people that I mentioned today, watch the hearing for yourself. Every single person, except for the borrower, maybe, who was interviewed, and maybe one other person doesn't really know that much about the lending system. Everybody else in that hearing knows full well that what I just said is true. This lending system is toast. It's done. It's a disaster. It needs to be ended and replaced. So we've got some work to do, guys. Maybe on a personal note, and I said this last time, I'll say this again, you may want to think very carefully about bulletproofing yourself. And by that, I mean making it so the student loan hyenas, the vultures, the swamp creatures, that's probably an insult to swamp creatures, that the collection industry cannot touch you. You might want to think about becoming a contractor employee rather than a 990 employee. You may want to talk to your employer and tell them to tell the collection companies to pound sand if they ask for a wage garnishment. It's probably better to be a contractor employee, a 1099. You may want to think about all different ways that you can make yourself bulletproof. This could get much uglier before it gets much better. At this point, I'd say it is all but inevitable that we're going to be doing a national student loan burning, probably around July 4th. If this is what the politics in Washington are looking like, then it's really our only and best move. I can see no other recourse at this point, short of illegal, civilly unrestful, potentially violent things, but I'm not even going to go there. We shouldn't have to break the law to get what we need to get justice here. The founders are on our side. The guys who wrote the Constitution were very worried about this predatory lending system that we are now living under today. That's why they called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution, not the Bill of Rights, the body of the Constitution itself. So guys, we got this. Today was a big disappointment. Bad on Elizabeth Warren. In fact, I would go so far as to say shame on her. She knows better. Bankruptcy is her wheelhouse. She taught bankruptcy law at Harvard University for many years, so there's no excuse. I hate to see this. If I had to guess, I would say it looks a lot like the Democrats. They don't want to actually solve this problem. Heck, they won Georgia because of this problem. They love to milk this problem for as many votes as they can get. And again, we're not Democrats here. We're not Republicans. We're neither side. We trust all politicians as far as we can bowl them, and that is not far. So I hope you can realize the value in that, and that we don't pull our punches one way or the other. We tell the truth. We fight only and absolutely for the borrowers and for student loan justice. And so I have to say today, bad on the Democrats, bad on Elizabeth Warren. I'd really like to know who selected those so-called experts. Those people were swamp creatures in the extreme, but for maybe Maura Healey, Attorney General of Massachusetts, and the other guest, I can't remember her name, talking about the racial disparity. But anyways, yeah, bad on Elizabeth Warren. She can do far better than this, and we expect and demand and have every right to expect far better from her. So, yeah, I wish I had better news, but just remember the good news about those two stories. But get ready to fight, folks. We are going to need you. This is your problem. This is our problem. Maybe the last thing I'll say is get that story that I pasted up somewhere around here. Get that story to the local and national media, please. We really need to make a splash with this. Very good things are in the ether. When we can get even one Republican governor to stand up and say, President Biden, enough. Get rid of this lending system that is wrecking my state. When we can get even one Republican governor to do that, that's game over. And they have every reason to. Read the report. Read that report for yourself. Look at all the states that are mentioned. Most of them are red states. So this is our not so secret weapon, but this is the thing that's going to get it done for us. Take this seriously. We're it, guys. We're the front line. We're the tip of the spear. We're the tip of the arrow. We're the eye of the hurricane. In fact, we are the hurricane. We are the arrow. We are the bow. And we need you to fight because these are your loans and this is your problem. And you cannot sit and wait and watch and worry while Washington pretends to craft solutions for us. We've got to force this solution. And you've got to be stronger. Remember that. Nothing ever good happens when you sit there and do nothing and expect somebody else to pull your weight. Ain't going to happen. So do that stuff that I say on the side there. Get that article out there. Push that petition. We're so close to 1 million signatures. A lot of things that we can be doing that are very constructive, very cathartic. You will feel better when you help. Trust me. It feels good to be fighting on our side rather than sitting on the fence. Don't do that. It's bad for you. It's bad for the country. Founders on our side. And remember, we're not fighting only for ourselves, but we're fighting for tens or hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. So take heart. Don't trip on today's terribleness. We're used to it. We'll get over it. And remember also, Joe Biden, the rhetoric from his mouth 10 years ago was terrible. And today it's 180 degrees reversed. It's heads and shoulders different and better than it was a year ago. Where's it going to be 6 months from now? If we have anything to say about it, we're going to get this problem solved before then. You got to help. Don't forget that. This all starts with you. So with that, I will wish everybody good night, good luck. I will be back I'll be back tomorrow, actually. I'm filling in for Ed tonight. Ed will be back on Thursday. I'll be back on Friday. But do that stuff, guys. We need you, and you need us. And spread the word about the petition and this group. So good luck, good night, Godspeed, and God bless everybody.